I'm Kathleen Murf+E, and welcome to Murf+E Unfiltered Zero BS Biz Talk. I'm here today with a guest co-host named Lily Hartman, and I'm going to introduce you to her in a second. How are you, Lily?
I'm good. How are you, Kathy?
Good. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. In just complete transparency, I should let people know that I've known you for more than a few minutes.
Quite a few.
Probably since you were born, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
So what's kind of magical about this experience today is that your mom and I have been friends forever. And we go way back in time. So it's so much fun to have you on as a guest today. We had talked about having you be a guest on our my show a while ago, and I'm so glad that we could make this happen in 2025.
I know. It's so exciting and so funny. My mom and I always joke that I feel like I talk to you more than she does because I feel like you and I are so similar with our work.
We are. And I joke with her about that also. And also I'll have to ask you how your mom is doing, because you'll know, because I probably haven't talked to her for a while. So I love that.
I know. It's funny.
Such a fun dynamic.
Yeah.
Who knew, right?
Yeah.
I think she's just like, wow, how do you talk to my daughter more than me?
Yeah, she does say that.
It's the way that it is. Sorry, Jen. We love you, though.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, well, today we are going to talk about a subject that is near and dear to both of our hearts. It's called What Lights You Up? And I'm going to read a little bit about your bio so that people can have a sense of where you're coming from and why I brought you on today to help me out with this subject. So Lily is a 27-year-old writer from New Hampshire. Her work has been published in the Boston Globe, Yahoo Inc., Nutrition Business Journal, USA Today, iFit Health and Fitness, Mount Washington Valley Vibe magazine, and more publications. In her free time, you'll find her lifting weights, hiking mountains, and reading personal development books. She also runs a blog, Limitless with Lily, where she aims to inspire individuals to overcome their limitations through movement. And I love that. And that's one of the things I really admire about you, is the fact that you've embraced fitness to a whole new level in many different ways. So we'll get a little bit into talking about that. But just as a sort of a sneak preview into some of the things that we might be covering today, I just thought I'd mention that. Today we are going to, as I said, talk about what lights you up. And from an overview perspective, it may seem absurd, but you would be surprised at how many people are unaware of what lights them up or motivates them. How is this possible? And can this be turned around? So we're going to talk about, respectively, what lights us up, what motivates us through the course of our conversation today. And I was thinking back to early in my life, what motivated me, and I had to kind of go way back on this one because it has nothing to do with what I'm doing today. So I'll share that. And I was interested in design and architecture. And then I discovered that you had to use a lot of math, particularly for architecture. So that basically canceled out and sort of dimmed my motivation and interest in that field. But I did work for my uncle, who was an architect, for a few summers, thinking that would be something that I would do. But that initially lit me up. So after finding out about that I wasn't a math genius, I'm not terrible in math, it's just not my fondest subject, I decided there was probably some other areas that maybe I could look at to find something that might light me up. And I did luckily find some other things. I found out that sports and art were some other areas that were in alignment with what really lit me up. So that was what I decided to focus my attention on. Now, my first motivational experience with a leader was absolutely, I'll be completely honest, dreadful. Why was it dreadful? Because this person basically made it very difficult to work for them, namely because of the fact that you couldn't trust them, which is a terrible thing. That's highly important in terms of motivation.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you've experienced that. Let's hear a little bit about, Lily, what first became something that motivated you. Think back to maybe, I don't know, a decade or so ago.
Sounds about right. And I do want to say, when you said that, sports and art is your passion, I feel like finding your passion is something that, in a way, you almost can combine a few things to make it one goal. And I think that is very similar to what I've experienced. So I love that you kind of experience that as well. So Yes, it's been about 10 years, maybe longer. When I was like 15 years old, I was dealing with some health issues that made it really hard just to digest food, and I won't get too into that. But around that time, I was trying to find healthy ways to gain weight. So I went to a nutritionist, and they put me on like a really healthy diet that helped me get my energy back. And then during that time, I started going to the gym. So I started lifting weights at 16 years old.
Wow, that's
and
great.
yes, so when I began doing that, I discovered how good it made me feel. I discovered how confident it made me feel. I felt so strong mentally and physically, and I just fell in love with it like instantly. It was also a way for me to socialize.
Right.
It was something I could do after school. Like I looked forward to it. When I wasn't playing volleyball or basketball, like during my off season, I would just want to go lift weights. So that was really when I found like an inspiration in my life other than just teenage girl stuff,
Right,
you know?
right.
So about a year after that, I found myself like being very interested in like creativity and writing. So I began like writing for fun, like after school.
Right.
Journaling? Yes. Well, that, and I actually wrote a book, even though it probably isn't good because I had no skills back then. I wrote a book. Yes, it took about a year, and I wrote a book when I was 17 years old, and it's called. It was actually about a girl who finds herself through like outdoor adventure, and she falls in love with this guy, and he ends up passing away.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I wrote that when I was 17. So I discovered like my passions and like the things that motivated me at a pretty young age.
Right.
And I haven't lost those interests at 27. So it's actually amazing to see how much they've like been in my life and how I've grown with them.
Right. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to read your book. And I know that you also are potentially going to be working on another book.
Yes, this one's more a real one, not like a fun one. So I'm more excited about this one. Yes, I will be writing a book about the White Mountains, about a project going on the Franconia Ridge up north.
Okay.
It's a restoration project. It's very like conservation focused.
Right.
So I will be working on that. I'm not sure how long it's going to take. I'm going to be like coordinating with some like officials up north to like figure out the logistics, but I will be working on like my first official book that will actually be published. So I'm really excited.
That is really exciting. I'm sure there's probably a fair amount of research that you'll
Yes.
well,
there will be
that.
Yes, there will be lots of research. It'll include some history, some interviews, being out on trail. So it'll unfold very slowly, but I think it's going to come together like beautifully. So
Absolutely. Will you include photos?
Yes, we have someone who wants to do illustrations and photography.
Fantastic. Oh, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, thank
Something
you.
to look forward to.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Love that. So for me, when I initially started focusing on my career, which has evolved, and I spent 20 plus years, 25 really, in the tech space, I realized that it wasn't something that really I was passionate about. And it wasn't until about 8 years ago when I started my business, Market Me Too, and refocused my attention on doing something that I was more passionate about and had a purpose, or felt I had more of a purpose alignment towards doing, that really I kind of woke up and felt like I was on the right track. Took me much longer to get there than it did you, but circumstantially, I'm happy the way that it sort of played out the way that it did. I'm not sad about that in anything by any stretch of the imagination. And some of the things that I did to support that were I had to make some changes professionally. I had to become certified in different ways in order to gain credibility. One of them being a Gallup strengths coach. One of them also being a neuro-linguistic programming coach as well. So I'm duly certified in both of those modalities in support of the work that I do with my clients who happen to be in both business, and this is really good alignment also with sports teams and sports coaches as well. So when I was initially doing the setup for my work, I hadn't even considered sports. And when I was able to then factor in that I could incorporate sports into the work that I do, that further just continued to align with lighting me up and helping me to find my passion, like you have.
Yes.
And I know, and I don't know if this is something that you're going to be covering, Lily, but I know that you recently were also involved with a competition.
Yes.
And is that something that you can talk about?
Absolutely.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So I did my first bodybuilding competition in June of 2024, so 6 or 7 months ago.
Yes.
It was sort of spontaneous, but I always have had an interest in doing a bodybuilding competition, but I never felt like it was the right time. But I think that's like a limited mindset I was having, because you're never going to be fully ready for a
100%.
goal.
That's
You just have to throw yourself into it. So my boyfriend is very experienced. He's personal trainer. He's done like 10 plus bodybuilding shows. So he actually like coached me and guided me through the whole process. And
that's
he
great.
inspired me to want to do it.
Okay.
So I did my first show. It was the NPC, the bikini category. So the whole goal is to like, maintain as much muscle as you can and also get as lean as you can. So it definitely takes,
Difficult.
yes, definitely takes a lot of discipline and like
Yes.
mental strength, because you have to stay on track with your diet, prep your food, bring it with you. You have to show up to the gym for posing, cardio, lifting, on top of trying to work full time. So it was definitely a very incredible, hard experience, but very rewarding once I stepped up on the stage. Not sure if I would do it again or not.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, I'm very focused now on like my long-term goals, that I want to put more energy and time into those.
Great.
But the show is something that like I will always carry with me, and it just taught me a lot about what it takes to achieve a goal.
Absolutely.
And I do feel like fitness in general is something that like gives you a foundation of what it takes to succeed, because it teaches you like delayed gratification,
Yes.
discipline,
Right.
showing up over and over and not
Right.
getting results for a long time. So it really taught me a lot.
Setbacks.
Yes, it taught me a lot of valuable lessons.
Good. Yeah, I would say the same thing for myself. And particularly when I'm working with athletes, I'm reminded about what you just mentioned all the time, because people do want that instant gratification.
Right.
They want to instantly get better, instantly get stronger, instantly play more, be a starter. And that takes a ton of work in
Yes.
order to get to those places that you want to be. And then it takes also being able to maintain that when you do get there. The work isn't
Yes.
done. The work is never done.
The work is never done.
And you have to be okay with that. And I think that you have to sometimes maybe find a way in order to dig deep, in order to keep going like you did with
Yep.
getting ready for the competition, because that sounds really difficult.
Yes, you do have to fall in love with the process. And I think that is
like
where
that.
people miss that, is like you need to learn to be okay with the difficulty and fall in love with it, because that is where the reward is.
Without a doubt. And I think finding your passion and your motivation also has a lot to do with the kind of work that I do, which helps to support people's confidence levels going up. It supports also increased self-awareness, which I think is critical
Yes.
to understanding who you are. Can you dig deep? Do I have what it takes in order to accomplish this? And you
Yes.
talked about mindset. That's something that I'm paying a lot of attention to these days,
Yeah.
and actually in the process of putting together a workshop to support that for my clients. And also, obtaining your dream job doesn't always mean that you're going to be satisfied when you get there. And sometimes we think that it might be just the perfect place for us to be. And we don't understand, to your point, I love how you talked about the process.
Yeah.
Because the process continues. And you have to refine the process in order to stay on track and in order to keep that love and that momentum going, right?
Yes.
And do you want to talk a little bit about like maybe how you experience perhaps just feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can stay with this process, or how you put a process together in order to maintain staying on that track? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think a big thing you need to do is like learn to be not content, because you don't ever want to settle, but you need to learn to be happy right now before reaching a goal or getting to a certain point or getting to your dream. Because when you have that mindset of like, I'll be happy later, you're never actually going to be fulfilled. You're always going to feel like there's something missing. So something I really focus on is my mindset. So that's like you said in the beginning with my bio, I do read a lot of personal development books, because I feel like they teach you a lot about building the mindset you need to succeed in life and to achieve a goal.
Right.
So it's really important to like do the inner work, to journal. And I'm nowhere near where I'd want to be with that, but I definitely feel like I've taken those first 2 steps. I love to meditate. I love to journal. I love to read my books in the morning, just get my mind right for the day and learn to be grateful for what I have now and what I'm working toward now, and not feel like, oh, when I have this goal, when I launch this product, I will be happy. Like that's not how it should work. You should, if you think that way, and it's really difficult to maintain motivation and stay on track. So you really have to train your mind to be this positive, powerful like source, and you don't want to go into it thinking, oh, I'll be happy later, because that's not the way you should do it.
Right. So what you've described is all part of your process.
Yeah.
One of the things I was going to ask you about, and this is something that I find a lot of people struggle with, and I've heard an expression that I love, which supports what I'm going to talk about with you, is that comparison is the thief of joy. And so what do you do to not compare yourself? Because like you said, if you're not initially happy with where you're at, and then you're constantly comparing yourself to others,
right,
or what if I get there and, you know, I'm not as good. What do you do to try to avoid going into that sort of mindset or down that path? Because that's a critical thing, I bet, as part of your process.
Yeah.
And part of my process too.
Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of it has to do with like just learning how to be confident, and that obviously takes a lot of work as well. As I think people who compare might have like insecurities about certain things, which is human, that's okay. But I think you really need to learn to like, it's you against you, not you against the other person.
Exactly.
And being in the bodybuilding world, that's definitely something that can be hard for people. But I'm so proud of how I looked on stage, and I wasn't worried about the girl who got first place or second place thinking, oh, she looked better. I should have been more disciplined. Like, you don't want to have that mindset. You want to think like, I just did a bodybuilding show that was really hard, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done, and it made me grow. Like, compared to the person I was 6 months ago, you want to learn how to compare to you and not other people, because there's always going to be someone like maybe beyond you or behind you in whatever, in some sense, but you never want to feel like you're not good enough. Like, if you have that mindset, you want to like just feel whole on your own, and like not need to compare to other people.
Exactly. It's such a healthy way to go about looking at experiences, because we can all too often get caught up in just not feeling, to your point earlier, that we're enough. You're always enough. You're always better than you were the day before, just by virtue of showing up. And that's a large part of the process, if you will, for experiencing what lights you up.
Yeah.
Some of the other things that I have realized in working with my clients, also benefits of showing up and finding out what lights you up, is that your relationships will improve, your health will improve. There are so many things that just are byproducts, that are such healthy byproducts of having a different sort of way of thinking. And I think that that's critically important. I've had people ask me, so what is it about the work that I do, if I were to express to somebody that explains kind of in a nutshell what I do? And I don't say this lightly either, and I'm not boasting or bragging. These are words that I've heard multiple times, which is such an honor. But I've heard that the work that I do is life-changing.
That's amazing.
Right. And so if you had told me 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that I would be having people express that to me based on switching my careers to do what I'm doing now, I would have been overjoyed, but I probably wouldn't have believed in it, which is a little crazy to think that, but it is possible. I mean, just hearing your part of your journey in terms of what you've been going through is a perfect example of that. And and gosh, you are in your 20s still. I can only envision what you're going to be doing in another decade or two.
I look forward to continuing to build the vision that I have for my life. It's very exciting. And I love that people are telling you what you do is life changing. And do you feel like helping other people is what makes you most fulfilled with the work you do?
It does. It really does. It's really what allows me to get up in the morning and get so excited about, okay, roll up the sleeves. What are we gonna be able to accomplish today? What can I help somebody to do to take them to the next level, to make them feel different, better, stronger, more confident, that they can have a more advanced type of relationship with either somebody in their family or maybe the relationships that they have that they're developing with their workmates or their clients or whoever is in their life. These are all just incredibly powerful things that I never imagined that I'd be doing, but that really light me up and get me going. So, and I know I have a gift for being able to do that, and I feel very fortunate that I figured that out and that I can use that, because I don't feel like I could really significantly use that as much in my earlier years, which may sound ridiculous, but it's true.
Yeah, I feel like helping others, and you hear like a lot of successful people talk about it, is like people who become like millionaires, and I've listened to podcasts, it's like it's not the money that makes them happy, it's the fact that money is a tool to keep helping other people.
That's right.
Because I feel like when you have a purpose, you feel like you have a purpose, it always ends with helping someone in that whatever you're trying to help them with. Like for you, it's confidence and strength. And for me, it might be educating someone on like how to be a better hiker or like getting into the gym, which there's some similarities there.
That's right.
But that is what makes me most fulfilled, is if someone tells me you're so inspiring. Like I love reading your writing and you've inspired me to get to the gym, like whatever it is, that is what makes you feel like it gets you out of bed in the morning. It helps maintain that motivation, at least in my opinion.
Exactly. I love that. So I have some tips that I'm going to share with people in terms of being able to find maybe some of their inspirations that they haven't thought about quite yet. And often other people in life have a better read or interpretation of what seems to motivate us. They have seen you and they say, I've seen you light up when you're doing X, Y, Z. And that can be a motivational driver for people. But I also like to have people ask someone you have in your life that they are hopefully a trusted advisor, what it is that they think, because they know you so well, to give you some examples of when they've seen you light up in the way that you have. That's really critical. So looking forward to doing something, even if it seems mundane, as well as practical things that might serve as drivers to motivate you. Say, for example, this is not one of mine, by the way. I know that would be one of your moms, potentially. Spring cleaning. And I say that in the nicest and most loving way. Getting back in touch with someone, helping another person, figuring out a solution to a challenge. Another one would be, most people will find it satisfying, as we were talking about, helping another person. Even the slightest types of helpful acts can give you the spark towards being motivated differently or give you additional energy and drive towards a pursuit. So I think a lot of people make the mistake thinking that it's if I take energy and apply it towards helping somebody else, it's going to take it away from me. What they don't realize is that it actually fuels them up more. And I say that to a lot of the leaders that I work with, that yes, you may feel like you're putting every ounce that you have into other people, but it's going to come back to you in spades.
100%.
Yes. Do you have any tips that you'd like to share with people in terms of what you do to like motivate yourself if you're having maybe an off day?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say I just remember my why, like because, and I think this kind of applies, like an example would be like wanting to eat something that's not within like my meal plan for like my prep for my bodybuilding show. I envision how I look on the stage and that getting to that goal and being proud of myself for enduring those difficult times. And you have to learn to like think of the bigger picture, because if you only act on how you feel in the moment, you're really not going to get as far as you could if you stuck to like what you know you need to do. So training your mind to be okay with discipline and like making those small sacrifices. Like if you want to sleep in, or if you're not motivated to get to the gym, or if you don't feel like working on that project, you have to remember in a week, a month, a year, 10 years, you're going to be grateful that you did.
That's
so
right. Exactly.
I would say definitely just getting yourself in a positive headspace, remembering your why is important,
Yes.
but also allowing yourself breaks when you really need them. Because if you're always going, you're going to burn out and probably not want to work toward that goal anymore.
Right.
So if you really aren't feeling great, like if you're sick, like take a couple hours, relax, and then get back to it the next day. Learn to rest, but not quit. That's a big one.
That is I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's
You're welcome.
a great suggestion. So I have some more tips, and I'm not going to go too deeply into this, but one of my suggestions was to focus on the why as well. So
funny.
I'm so happy you brought that one up. And then perhaps someone or a few people have told you that you don't appear to be motivated. Is it possible that this is situational or due to a particular potentially difficult circumstance, one that caused you essentially to become stuck, possibly depressed? If so, have you asked for help? And if you haven't been able to help yourself get out of this pattern you've found yourself in, I encourage people to not get discouraged, to actually seek help to do that. Mm-hmm. And no judgment is being applied here, as it's possible others have offered you help, yet you are not able to accept it. That's a potential situation that occurs sometimes. Mm-hmm. And then perhaps in time you'll be able and ready to do so, and to consider this as a possibility. And then lastly, if you knew that you could successfully unlock all your motivational factors, would you be willing to pursue making this happen? Some people won't, and I hope you don't fall into that category, but it is possible. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's hyper motivated. Not everybody is driven the same way. Not everybody has the same aspirations, and that's okay.
Right. Agreed.
Right?
Yeah.
I personally could never imagine doing half the things that you've already accomplished in your life. And you might say vice versa about some of the things that I've done also. So again, it goes back to that not comparing, right? And being joyful about what it is that we've discovered on our own, or maybe through somebody else helping us, what lights us up.
Right. And I think it's also about maybe finding your own strengths and what motivates you versus that whatever motivates you might not motivate someone else. And I feel like that's a lot aligned with like what your work is like focusing on your strengths.
It's 100% that. I was talking to a sports team yesterday, and I was having a conversation with the group about focusing not on their deficits, but focusing on looking at opportunities to solve some of the challenges that they had as a team, and relying upon the things that they were good at to contribute to having the team outcome be in a better, way than they had been experiencing. And they really needed to hear that, and they really needed to also understand that perhaps they also they've got a teammate who's sick and isn't going to be able to play with them for a while. So I said, consider potentially also using the motivation for this person that can't be playing with you, that so just intently wants to be there. Play for them.
Yeah.
Use that as your motivation and your spark to help you. So sometimes leverage off of looking at other people situationally that can't do something, and be fortunate and grateful that you can, right?
It really does. A lot of it does come down to gratitude. Like I will journal even. I'm grateful for the hard work. I'm grateful I can go to the gym. I'm grateful for legs that climb mountains. Like it really comes down to like that mindset with a lot of that motivational stuff. It
really does. And it's so critical to try to get that right. And I don't think it's impossible to say that everyone can have a growth mindset. Not even if you feel like you have a closed mindset, that you're the most pessimistic person in the world. I truly believe that if you want to change the way that you think, it's entirely possible to do so.
100%. You can retrain your brain just like the gym. You can exercise your mind. If you look at it the same and you're patient and you put in the work with your like mindset, it will grow. That's also another reason why I think fitness is a good foundation to success, because you can apply that to anything else in your life, relationships, work, like mindset, all of that.
Exactly. I know you're not going to believe this, Lily, but we've actually reached the end of our journey here today.
Wow, that went by fast.
It does. It's such a marvelous topic, one that we could talk about for
Days.
forever and days. Yeah, we just could keep going on. So I'll like to have you come back and continue to back up on this conversation.
Absolutely.
And maybe have like episode 2 for this.
Yes, I would love that.
Good. This is such a delight to have you here today. So I want to thank everybody for being with us here today on Murf+E Unfiltered Zero BS Biz Talk. And please come back again. I appreciate you spending your time with us, and we will see you again. Take care, everybody.